Hello, class. This is Rachel Walker with part 2 of chapter 27, Republican Resurgence and Decline. This time we're going to talk about the rise of what would be the Axis powers with World War II, as well as the beginnings of the Great Depression. I'll start back a little bit where we were on part 1. These war debts and reparations. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, and everyone in Europe was in debt to the United States. But the Allies tried to load, their debts of the U.S. and cost of war on the backs of Germans, so everyone was resentful. Germans felt they were being bled dry, while the U.S. felt the Allies were taking advantage of them. Germans resulted to runaway inflation. It reduced the mark more than 1/trillionth of its value to try to avoid international obligations. Okay, and there were some plans, to there were some plans to try and help out Europe pay its debt. For example, you had the Dawes Plan here, which provided Germany with a $200 million loan designed to stabilize its currency, followed by the Young Plan, which further scaled down the reparations bill. But basically, what you got was this never-ending cycle of debt. So by the late 1920s, the U.S. stopped loaning Germany money. The Great Depression struck, Germany defaulted, and so did the Allies. Because of this, you see the democracies of Europe failed to unite. The rise of totalitarianism, which is just a long word for fascism and Nazism at the time. Now, back at home, Coolidge decided not to run again, so Herbert Hoover won the nomination. He felt that American capitalists had learned to curb their selfish instincts. He was pretty much a good guy, but unfortunately, his decisions later on with reactions to the financial crisis would land him the infamy of quote unquote starting the Great Depression. He believed that voluntary trade associations would create codes of business practices and ethics would establish higher standards. In other words, he had a lot of faith that businesses would do what was right, if anything, for profit reasons. Okay, he believed that businessmen should cooperate with one another. He opposed union busting and trust busting, okay, and basically won the election. Okay. Note the green. The primary economic weakness undermining the prosperity of the 1920s was maldistribution of resources. What that means is poor or bad distribution of resources. Some businesses were not doing well while others were great, such as the cars, GM, Ford, and Chrysler. 1% of all banking institutions controlled almost 50% of the banking business. Most large manufacturers sought stability in trade practices or fair trade prices, through trade associations. You see agriculture, though the weakest element in the economy. Okay, and that's an example of the maldistribution. A lot towards manufacturers and business, but a lot less with agriculture, particularly at a time when your average farmer had maybe a couple of acres or so. This isn't the time where you have what we have today, industrial agriculture, such as Archer Daniels Midland. The stock market crash of 1929. We talked about this a little bit in class with our preview quiz. Okay, in the spring of 1928, stock market prices already at a historic high surged ahead. What they're not telling you, and what they think they tell you a little bit in the book, is a lot of these stocks were kind of like today's subprime loans. They were pretty risky and not paid in full. During the first half of 1929, stocks continued to climb. You see the market waver, and the wave of selling sends prices spinning. Okay, in October of 29, the bottom drops out of the market, but note the purple. We talked about this before, mainly due to fears of an economic collapse. It wasn't anything that was necessarily concrete. It was just a rumor that really caused everybody to do what is known as panic selling. Overall, though, the stock market did not cause a depression. It's a collapse, that is, because the stocks rallied late that year, and business activity really didn't begin to decline until about the spring of 1930. So all seemed well until about, I'd say, about April. The worldwide phenomenon caused by the imbalances resulted from World War One economic problems, which caused the depression. Also, is easy credit policies of Federal Reserve Board and Mellon tax structure favored the rich. The politicians really didn't know how to respond. Okay. Hoover initially called on businessmen to maintain prices and wages. He felt that the government should cut taxes in order to increase consumer spending income, institute public works programs to stimulate production and create jobs for the unemployed, make loans to banks, basically more of a DIY idea on behalf of businesses. But Hoover's program for ending the Depression called for the federal government to lend funds to banks and corporations on the verge of collapse, basically a bailout. But he was limited, or they were limited, in how they should be implemented. Most of all, Hoover believed that he should try to restore the public's confidence. All right, we're a little bit past 5 minutes, so we'll do part three in just a moment.